everybody. Welcome back to Read the Truth. You know, truth comes first, reasons come last, but we're always and constantly learning. If you stop learning, stop teaching. Reality, stop teaching. Well, today's episode is from a talk I did at the Truth Matters Conference, National Conference for Christian Apologetics, put on by Southern Evangelical Seminary. And I spoke on reclaiming family and culture for Christ and using apologetics in evangelism. That's kind of a subtitle. But we cover 4 profiles people, and we throw in some other things to show you really in this talk what we're up against. You know, you're dealing with the same objectives for 6 types of people, and really 5. One has a subgroup in today's talk. They're all asking the same thing. They're all giving the same objection, but really they're asking different questions because they're coming from different points of view. For example, you have the atheist. That's more of a linear, logical, philosophical position. Then you have the abused leaver of their faith. That person's been abused. So they're both rejecting God, but for different reasons. So thank you for tuning in. I'm going to do this in 2 parts, so let's get started. Reclaiming culture for Christ. We reclaim our culture by starting with our children, to the family, to the church. Once you reclaim the church, you claim the town, the city. From the city, you take the state. The state, you reclaim the country. And when you claim the country, you reclaim the world. And that's basically how you take back culture for Christ. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Number 3 is the modern atheist, those who leave for intellectual reasons. I don't need to say a lot. Remember, these are the Dawkins followers. These are the people, it's funny in apologetics. We just think that everyone fits this category. The guy's arguing against God, I heard it say that, a lot of times in the youth groups, all of a sudden you'll have a girl who's loved Jesus her whole life, and all of a sudden she's like, I don't know if I believe in God. The first question you ask, are you sleeping with your boyfriend? Well, cognitive dissonance, it's moving in. Unlike postmodern thinkers, they love linear thinking. All men are 4-legged reptiles. Steve is a man. Therefore, Steve is a 4-legged reptile. Do you realize that's a valid argument? It's just not true. So they'll argue arguments like that are valid. They're just not true. And that's how they think linear, they think logical. They can be confrontational, angry, militant. You see this played out in the Antifa stuff. I mean, these people, and by the way, it really struck me, I was going through this presentation, when you look at Antifa, they really believe, listen to them, they really believe like communists and Hitler are coming to take them to the gulags. Not realizing it's them that are doing all the violence and hurting and killing people. And you see, when you see educated, affluent, or well-accomplished people up there saying, yeah, I think that it's time, politicians, we need to kill somebody, then that's violence. Wow. And it's all over. You see people saying, you're like, wow, do you know what you're saying? That's why I think very shortly you're going to see the Trump administration come down swiftly. Not with 1 or 2. You're probably going to see a massive. You're going to wake up one day. You're going to see that there's basically cleaning house. And George Soros, you see how many of these people are fleeing Switzerland? Head of the CIA, Brennan, head of the CIA, he fled to Germany. Yep.
A bunch of actors are famous people were already bombed out.
Yeah. But here's the deal. Trump made a point, though, if you listen to him. He said, I think we're going to make Antifa an international. You know what that means? Now we have treaties with all these countries. We call up and say, send him back. We're coming to get him. Go lock him up. So they're all going to. So here's your view. There's no God and I hate him. Well, how do you hate God if he doesn't exist? Right? Okay? They're just questions to engage, though. Do not consider do you consider yourself spiritual? It's a good question. Just an open-ended question, because you're going to learn a lot about that, right? Because a lot of people, we're more spiritual than we were in the 50s. It's just we're less Christian, Orthodox. Who do you admire, right? If they say Anton de LaBlaise, the satanic founder of the church in the 60s in San Francisco, well, that gives you an idea where they're coming from, okay? How do you determine what is true? Ooh, it's not what is true, it's how do you determine. Remember, all men are 4-legged animals. Don't ask where would you go if you died tonight. I guess you could, but a lot of times, listen, they don't believe in heaven, so they just believe it's lights out. So you're asking a kind of to them a rhetorical question. Neo-pagans, meet Laura, fast-growing. Wicca is now, neo-paganism is not always witchcraft, and it's not Satanism. These are different things, and I'm not going to get into it because it's way too... But meet Laura. Laura's a young lady, came to the YMCA. I used to work out outside Charlotte, in Weddington YMCA. It was just, we call it Club Wed. It was just like, honestly, it was so small. It was in a strip mall. That's how small it was. And so everybody knew each other. So this girl comes in with a Wicca shirt on. So I said to her one thing, and I don't make it my point to talk to young ladies, but I said, hey, do you know what that means? And she's like, she started to look panicked. And it was the Wicca star, but they rounded the edges like a heart. Oh, that's so sweet. The pentagram star, if it points up, Wicca. If it points down, Satanism. Those are the guys, you know. And then there's 9 levels of Satanism, but that's not what this talks about. So she comes in, T-shirt. I talked to her about the meaning behind her shirt. Well, listen, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in Washington, D.C. to Italian family, immigrants, and my dad and my mom is Italian. And, we had a certain way of doing things. Moved down here 25 years. So I know Boston people, New York people are direct, but they're very loving. Tony's in the country in Massachusetts, but Boston people eat nails. I've been on airplanes before. I used to fly every 60 days to Boston, and it's the only city I'd go to where little old ladies, 90, 80 years old, that are 4'11", will literally throw their bag. They'll just try to knock me out so they can get off the plane one person before. What do you do to grandma? You're like, all right, grandma, I'll pick my wallet off. All right, I'm good. But the lady comes in and she's like, don't you ever talk to my daughter again. She's not a witch. So I said, okay, yeah, not a problem. Here's the problem. You know what the problem was? The girl, I don't think was misled. I think she knew exactly what's on her shirt. I think the parents today are naive. You a witch? No. Okay, don't become a witch. Go. And they're not witches like we think of. There's different levels of Wicca. Most of them are called dabblers. And they want to pass spells. Fastest growing religion amongst high school girls. So you know. So I was going to take this slide up. Wicca is derived from the word witchcraft. Wicca is a neo-pagan, earth-based religion. So when they have their ceremonies, they're usually girls more than guys, but they can have, and so I was in class with Ron Rhodes, and some guy goes, hey, Dr. Rhodes, I think I want to do not me, but some of the guys, I think I'm going to go do my paper, and I'm going to go out to a Wicca ceremony. And Dr. Rhodes, he's a very serious man. He goes, no, sir, I wouldn't recommend that. Because they go outside, usually you want to be closer to it. He goes, they're usually made up of more young women than not, and they disrobe and they're naked. And he's like, man, I'll skip that one. So they, again, magic spells, they want boys to fall in love with them. They worship these god and goddesses. I mean, if you look at, even Dora Explorer with the crystals, see, okay? Engaging with them, listen, just be nice. They're not mean people. But, every time I talk to high school, you could talk to these high school boys and girls, and the girls, do you know anybody that's a wicked witch, that's a witchcraft? And they all do this. The guys are like, I don't know anybody. And the girls they always do the same thing. I'm like, yeah, you do. They never said anything. Nobody ever says anything. So don't be super confrontational, and be prepared, because usually underneath there, especially if they're females, you're gonna find offense. You can hit a hot spot and get an emotional response. You just have to be prepared for that. They are sensitive. They're often misrepresented. You'll see some Christians, they're Satanists. No, they're not. Is Satan behind Wicca and witchcraft? Yes, but they're not Satanists, okay? 8 tips to reach them. Demonstrate basic familiarity with basic beliefs. Understand a little something. That's true of any religion. You want to witness to a Muslim? I got apologetics master's with an emphasis on Islamic studies. And I tell you, I've spoken with a lot of Muslims, some that know more than me, and many that don't. Many of them just don't know. Most Christians don't know what they believe. What do you think, Muslims are any different? Really? But demonstrate a basic familiarity. They'll appreciate that. You go to a Muslim and say, yeah, you believe in Jesus. Yeah, they'll tell you. He's a prophet. He didn't die on the cross because God would never crucify one of his prophets. Ask questions. What attracted you to Wicca? Will this will also illustrate their beliefs, problems with Christianity. Bond with them. Show them a care for creation. I do. I think I was taking my trash out. I'm on 2 acres. I got a lorry and I got all these trash cans out. And I'm thinking to myself, why isn't everything recyclable? Wouldn't that like be easier if just everything? Then I wouldn't have to have a recycle bin. Then and then I would just like have like now there's like glass, plastic, and paper, and then garbage. Why not make everything, and then you can just change all the trash cans in your house to just 3 things. That's me. I'm not even German. My wife is. When I moved to Charlotte, my wife is like, we should go on the track system. I wish they would put cars on the track system. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, you're German. She's like, yeah, the cars are regulated. I said, that's like communist. And now I'm older, and I see the way people drive. I'm like, we should get the track system. My father-in-law is like, I want to move to Europe. I don't have to drive anywhere. So honor Eve. She's a woman, right? Adam and Eve. Remember Wicca charmed. Share your spiritual experiences with them. Be real, you know. Yeah, sometimes I make mistakes. When I was a parent, I had 3 kids, and they're older now, but I was real intense. I had a real intensity of the day and kind of yelled at my son. He came in, he was taking world religions, and I was arguing with something because I was fearful that he was buying. There's a little bit of truth to that, but at the same token, I apologized to him, and he, a little bit of him is pushing back on me where he shouldn't push back on me. And but I said, no, it's good that I want him to be tough. So I don't want to break him down. He just folds with authority. So, but be real with them, right? They're going to appreciate your Christian spirituality. Pray before you enter a conversation. They'll like that. All right, moral rebel. Meet Andrew. Louis Plow, remember him? He was like the Billy Graham of Central South America. He just passed away a few years ago. His son Andrew left the faith. And here's interesting. He said, not for intellectual reasons at all. His dad was like famous worldwide, especially in Central South America. He was the guy. Andrew didn't have any doubts. His issue was autonomy. Here's the deal. I think that's the case with most people. You could take all 5 categories outside of maybe abused. It's autonomy. And to abuse maybe a little bit, but they have a different issue going. I'll give them a pass. Andrew says he wishes he had an excuse but had a great home with loving parents. He said he simply wanted to smoke dope, chase, these are his words, he wanted to smoke dope, chase women, and for pleasure and self-gratification. So he says, I love the sin, this is a quote, I love the sin, and I was engaged in, the sin I was engaged in, I built my foundation of life on it. Now here's the deal, how did his mom and dad handle it? Okay? His mom and dad said, this is the moral rebel in particular, they said we would just wait for tender moments, teachable moments. And that is, I think, if you said what is the one thing that you can do with your coworker, your grandma, your grandpa, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, wait, at some point, someone's going to die. At some point, someone's going to lose their job. At some point, someone's going to get sick. And when they do, they become more teachable. So teachable is teachable. That's what you want to. That's when you want to speak into they're more tender. When people are going good and they got money and their job's great and they are the king of the world, they don't want nobody telling them nothing. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Listen, I'm a capitalist, but I don't know if it's growing up to my parents being so close to their European roots. I also believe that that you have to govern yourself or you're going to get governed. If you act naughty with money, you're eventually. But the point is, we've really gotten corrupted. Like I grew up in a government town. I know every member in my neighborhood, anybody competing with anybody for a better kitchen. As a matter of fact, it just hit me. I'm like, okay, I was 18. I grew up in this house for 17 and a half years, 18 years, and we sold it with the same exact rooster wallpaper. And no one complained about anything. Same floors. It was a house. You lived in it. Now you're like, I got to spend $50, $100 fixing up my house so it's marketable. How did we get here? It's called HDTV. My kid, we were watching years ago. We were all watching Hallmark and HDTV, and my kids go, "Oh my gosh!" I'm looking at this house that comes up, and I go, "That's just like our house." And they go, "Golly, Dad, look at that house. That's old. That needs to be remodeled." I'm like, "That's our house. That's just." I'm like. It's no different than the gambling in the sense that it's just this sickness of materialism. Okay, the spiritual rebel, they rebel against God. They feel that it's intolerable to sit under the authority of God. Steve Gupta, He was in my early Bible study. He was one of the guys in one of my first Bible studies. And I get this frantic call, Steve, you're the only guy that can reach Steve Gupta. You're the only guy that could reach him. So I show up, and I said, hey, Steve, what's going on? I asked some questions, right? I'm feeling him where he's at. How'd you get here? He said, hey, here's the deal. If I'm a Christian, I can only have one girlfriend. If I'm not a Christian, I can have 5 girlfriends. So I went through some basics with him. And you know what I told him? Exactly what my mom would have told me. My mom was very good. It's up to you. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. But if you want to live that way, that's up to you. Remember, you own it. You buy it. You own it. It's your responsibility. But at the end of the day, you have to choose the moral principles and where those come from, okay? Objectioner, okay? So if there's a God and he's over me, I can't handle that, okay? But the citizens hated him, and he sent a delegation after him saying he does not want this man to reign over us. Parable of 10 minas. It's the same problem. No one wants to be oversaw. I'm going to go quickly because we got started late from the technical issues. 5 ways to respond to the spiritual rebel. Be slow to judge. It's true of anybody, right? You want it not. I have friends in my life that live a different lifestyle. Okay, yeah, If I give this hardcore judgment, like I say, this is wrong, even if it's homosexuality, you want to reach the heart. JT, Dr. Bridges, he used to travel with me. He was on my speaking team. We're good friends, and we were walking in Dallas one day, and he just goes, Steve, perhaps we should just get the homosexual saved and let the Holy Spirit do the rest. I went, wow. He's a smart guy. I said, he's right though. We can say, you're going to hell or you're not. Listen to me. No. Avoid not responding at all. Sometimes you have to tell them, hey, listen, if you don't come to know Jesus, you're going to go to hell. I don't care if you're gay, you're not gay, it doesn't really matter. So avoid not responding at all. I used to hear this years ago. He's just sowing his oats. No. If you go out and have sexual illicit relationships and you do things that's not good, that's not a way to live. You're going to create baggage you're going to carry the rest of your life. Underneath the rebellion is a deep thirst for adventure. I love adventure. I just learned how to funnel it, coming to Christ in my 22 years old, really. I learned how to funnel my activities from a fraternity house at the University of Maryland to the Christian. And you know what? There was always a thirst of adventure, but there's no greater adventure, seriously, than the Christian life. You want to adventure? Man, I go on missions trips. I'm like, this is great. I go to, Portugal and Costa Rica. I was invited to the Philippines today and Dominican Republic. I really want to go to the Dominican Republic because it's short flight. There's only 1 hour time difference, and it's the Caribbean. All right. Jesus, please send me in. Oh, sorry. Look for heightened moments of sensitivity. Okay, we talked about that. All right, reclaim a culture for Christ. This is wrapping up. Remember, by asking questions, you're going to validate them. If you want to ever have the respect to be heard, you have to have the respect. You have to gain that. If you listen first, then you will gain the respect to be heard. More importantly, you will learn what they believe and why they believe it. So more importantly, you're going to understand why they hold those beliefs. So this is a tailored. You have to tailor that. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promises, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient to you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. 4 good reasons. How do you determine what is true? Do you consider yourself spiritual? Number 3, who do you admire? We talked about these. And 4, talk about the life of Jesus. That is a great thing. Everybody's open to that. We're going to end on this little video. This is the end of that interview, and it's only a minute and a half, but I want you to listen to the hope. Tucker Carlson, after an hour and a half, is like, is there any hope? Let's see what he says.
What are the signs of hope that you see in the United States? I think that there are many signs of hope that I actually see. It's a lot. I know we talked about a lot of bad stuff here today, but I think there are several big ones. First is that more and more people who describe themselves as conservative or right-wing care more about their families and care more about their communities than they care about ideology. And that is starting to sink in. And I see more and more young people looking at religion as a way forward, which to me is the most important thing.
You do see that?
Yeah. I don't think it's everyone.
Well, it's never going to be.
Yeah. No. But those people who create intentional communities, religious communities, they're the people who are going to make it to the other side of this. They're the people who are going to be passing down their values. They're the people who are going to draw strength from a tradition and a transcendent truth that others don't have. And so I see more and more young people yearning for that. And I think that that is a huge spark of hope.
So you see people forming, young people having grown up in this, not just people from subcultures, not just the Amish or the Orthodox or other highly committed religious communities, but you see people who just sort of grew up in America deciding, I'm going to join an intentional religious community?
Yeah, I do. And I see more people forming, realizing they need to move near people who have shared values with them. I know certain people, living in the Ridge Runner community in Tennessee, and other examples where they recognize that not only am I, need to be more serious about my religion and forming these communities, it's no longer sufficient for me to talk about them abstractly online. I need to actually physically live in a community with people who share these ideas. Again, it's small amounts of people right now. It's still forming, it's still at its genesis, but I think it is expanding, and I think it increasingly will be the successful societies in the United States.
There you go. I'm not saying everybody should join a Christian commune. I think what he's saying is, if you're in a real decrepit place in New York, perhaps you need to move to where there's Christian community. That might, if you have kids, my cousin, he said his daughter is starting to speak with a foreign accent. She's not foreign, so her great-grandparents came here. So in closing, you reclaim your children. How do we reclaim culture? We start with our children. Children reclaims the family. Family reclaims the church. Church reclaims the towns. Towns the cities. Cities the state. State the country. And then we reclaim the world. That's how we take back culture from Christ, okay? But here's the deal. We as parents, and lastly, and grandparents and friends and coworkers, we must be intentional, loving, firm, truthful, biblical, and unafraid. If we're not willing to take that risk, it's not going to happen. But I think time is here. Sadly, with the passing of Charlie Kirk, the assassination, I think things are changing. So.